I'm Cody. I'm a marketing specialist here at QNAP. I'm here with our product manager, Deval. Hello, good morning, everybody. And yeah, so we'll be talking to you about various administrative tools and things of that nature. And so taking a look at the agenda here, you can see we'll start with how storage management works on the QNAP NAS. And we'll go over kind of the hierarchy of the storage and how you allocate storage for the QNAP NAS. Then we'll talk about managing multiple users with the QNAP NAS. And we'll also go over our resource monitor, our notification center, myQNAPcloud, and then Deval is going to give us a more hands-on look at our demo. And so he'll kind of show us how this looks in action. And at the end, we'll have a Q&A time, so you can ask us any questions that you might have. So taking a look at our storage management, so our storage management is handled in an app called Storage and Snapshots. And this is where you will allocate all of your storage for the QNAP NAS. And so basically, this starts with creating storage pools. And so you can create multiple storage pools using the drives that you have in your NAS, and they'll from a RAID that you have configured together. So one advantage of having multiple storage pools is that you can deploy your storage with more flexibility. So say if you have different types of drives like HDDs, SSDs, etc., you can create a storage pool on top of the HDD drives. You can create a different storage pool on top of the SSD drives. And so within that, on top of the storage pools, you will create storage volumes. So you can create, this is the storage level at which you would set up encryption. So you can create an encrypted volume or an unencrypted volume. This is also kind of the tier at which you create like iSCSI LUNs and that sort of thing if you're using the NAS for iSCSI storage. And this is what enables you to load and install apps on the different drives. So when you install an app, you'll be able to choose which volume it's on, and so you can simply choose the volume that has been created on SSD storage. And so that way, there are some apps like the Rune app will run much better on SSD storage. You could also do something like have your system volume created on SSD storage. And in addition to using your SSDs for various storage pools, we also support caching and tiering as well with the QNAP. And so taking a look at managing users, QNAP does enable you to create multiple user accounts. So some of you may just use the administrator account, but if you're using it for, say, file sharing in an office or something of that nature, it may be helpful to have multiple users. And you can kind of fine tune the permissions for each user, like which shared folders they have access to and such. And also creating separate users also enables you to kind of keep other users from having administrative privileges. So if you don't want someone messing with the various settings of the NAS by creating multiple users, you can protect yourself from any issues arising from a user messing up your setup. And so in addition to creating multiple users, we do have a resource monitor. And the resource monitor helps monitor your system's resources, obviously. So that's like CPU usage, memory usage, and it will enable you to break down what is using the CPU and the memory. So you can look at the different apps and see how much each app is using. So maybe if you're running kind of slow, or you're trying to perform a task that needs more intensive usage, but maybe you see that maybe you're running a virtual machine and virtualization station, and you see that it's using up a lot of memory. You could temporarily turn off the virtual machine and then perform the task you need to perform. And that's only one of many possibilities. But basically, Resource Monitor helps you to see what is taking up the resources of your NAS so that you can keep everything running smoothly. Our Notification Center is an app that helps you consolidate the notifications from all of your apps and various features into one app. And so rather than having to adjust notifications in each app, you can control all of it in one place right here. And with Notification Center, you can kind of set up rules on how you want to be notified, and there are 4 different channels of being notified. You can be notified by email, by SMS, basically text message. You can be notified by instant message, such as Skype, and you can be notified by a push service with push notifications if you integrate this with our QManager mobile app. And then we have myQNAPcloud. As many of you know, one major advantage of a NAS is that it can be accessed from anywhere. And myQNAPcloud is one of the big tools in accomplishing this with the QNAP. Basically, this helps you get a domain name, a URL, so that you can just put that into your browser wherever you are, and then get to the login screen of your NAS. That you can have multiple NASs uploaded in your QNAP Cloud account, and you'll be able to see a few bits of information, such as local IP address, your WAN IP address, your MAC address, and that's basically how you will be able to access the QNAP remotely. And so with that, I'm going to hand things over to Deval, and he's going to give us a hands-on look at this.
All right, thank you very much, Cody. Let me change the presenter to myself. All right, good morning, everybody, and I'm going to now share my screen. So to begin with, I'm going to start with setting up a storage pool on your NAS. So when you set up a new NAS, you need to set up a storage pool. This is where it will bundle all your drives together. It'll create a RAID for redundancy, and it will give you one large hard drive, basically, that you can now partition into volumes or LUNs or shared folders if you have QUTS-0 to start storing data, right? So to create a storage pool, you visit the storage snapshot, which should be on your main page of your QNAP NAS, and then you go to storage/snapshot, and then you click on create and click on new storage pool. And now if you do have a list of, if you do have a combination of SSDs and hard drives, we also do support Q-tiering for QTS operating system, where it will actually, what it will do is it'll create a different RAID group for SSD, and it will create a different RAID group for hard drive, and it will create a single volume that will span across both of them. So whatever, it will look at your data, and whichever data that you use a lot, which is called as hot data, that will be stored in your SSD volume, and whichever data that you actually do not use that much, or also called as cold data, will be stored into your hard drive. The advantage of having this is that you don't have to worry about which data is going into SSD or hard drive. QNAP will automatically decide what data should be going at what location, and it will start storing that data appropriately. So SSDs will always have your most used data. All right, so if you don't you have Q-tuning, just hit next. You select the two hard drives that you, I only have two hard drives here, or you select the list of hard drives, then you select the RAID type. We also support anywhere from single disk to RAID 60, and then you select if you want a spare. Spare basically means that if a hard drive goes bad, QNAP will take one of the spare drives and it will put that into the RAID. You would need a separate drive for that. So if you're setting up an 8-drive system, you need to, your 7 drives will be your RAID, and then 8th drive will be spare drive. So once you have selected that, hit next. You can set up a threshold. So in case if you start storing data and it reaches 80% of your storage pool capacity, it will alert you stating that you reached the maximum, or at least 80% of the capacity. You can also increase that to more, so you can store more data. But if you're getting an alert, maybe 95 or 98%, if you have a large enough capacity of the NAS. Once you've done that, hit next, it will create a storage pool for you. I already have multiple storage pools right here. You can actually create, if you want to create multiple storage pool, basically, let's say one storage pool for your SSDs and one storage pool for your hard drives, where you want to manually control where the data is stored at. You can also do that here. That is exactly what I've done here. I have an SSD storage pool that is on my SSD drives right here, and I have a hard drive storage pool right here. Once the storage pool is created, they can now create a volume. So volume is where you can actually store data onto. So this is where you can create your shared folders. Your Samba AFP services will be running, and then you can start storing data, or you can create a block-based LUN. Block-based LUN, the LUN goes directly on the storage pool. This is better for performance as compared to file-based LUNs, where it goes within the storage pool. LUN basically means it'll give you a raw capacity that you can put that into your computer, and the computer will look at that data as if, or look at that storage as if it's on the local. It's like a local hard drive, basically, for Windows computers. You can also use it for Hyper-V, VMware environments as well. We're gonna just create a volume right here, and if you have multiple volumes, make sure multiple storage pools. Make sure you have the correct storage pool. Once you have done that, you do have the ability to select thick or thin volume. Static volume basically goes directly on top of on the hard drive. So you don't need storage pool. You can actually create a volume called static volume directly onto the hard drives. So you just skip creating a storage pool. Just go here and click create a static volume. Now the advantage is, again, it's the most efficient volume, where it'll give you the best performance out of the three. But the disadvantage is you basically can only have one volume, because it goes directly on top of the hard drive. So you cannot have multiple unless you're trying to share hard drives between multiple volumes. The static volume will create a one large volume directly on top of the hard drives. The other disadvantage is you cannot use snapshot protection. So if you want to do snapshot protection, you would need to have a storage pool for that. But again, the performance, again, the difference between performance with thick and static and thin volume is not that much. It's a very slight performance upgrade, maybe a few percent, like 5% a performance upgrade. But then, but the flexibility of having a thick and thin volume is much more than that. So I would recommend using storage pool and then a thick volume. Thick volume gives you better performance, but thick volume immediately allocates the data. So if you have a storage pool of, let's say, I have a storage pool of 3 terabytes, almost 2.5 terabytes. So if I create a thick volume and hit next, what will happen is that, let's say if I want to create a volume of 1 terabyte, it's going to immediately take away 1 terabyte out of that 2.5 terabyte, and it will create a volume. And then the rest of them, you can create another volume, or you can create a iSCSI LUN, or whatever you like to. With thin volume, if you select, let's say if you select 1 terabyte, it's not going to create a 1 terabyte volume. It's going to just start. It's going to just start with few gigabytes, and as and when you put data, it's going to start increasing the volume automatically. So that's thick volume. Oh, sorry, that's thin volume. Okay, so once you have selected the correct size, you're going to select bytes per node. So if you have a large, if you think that you're going to have a volume that spans across 250 terabyte, make sure you select the largest node, and then hit next. And then once you have selected all of that, going back under advanced settings, you can also set up encryption, where you can so this volume will be encrypted. So if you restart the NAS, you have to enter the password before you can access your data. Yeah, if you check box save encryption key, what will happen is that if you reboot the NAS, the QNAP will automatically unlock the volume, and then you don't have to enter the password. But if you do uncheck this box, every time you restart the NAS, you have to enter the password before you can access your data. So you can set up encryption. Once you have done that, hit next and then hit finish. That will create the volume. So basically that is easy as just creating the storage pool and the volume. And once you have created the volume, you have to go under control panel and then shared folders. And this is where you can create shared folders. Basically this is where this is the folder you're going to be able to access your folders remotely or through file station, through map drives as well. And then once you select, this is how you can create a shared folder. So that's creating a volume. That's basically a quick overview how to create a storage pool and volume. The next we're going to go over is users. QNAP does give the ability to create more users within the QNAP. So if you do plan to use this NAS with multiple users like your family or your coworkers, you can create multiple users. So to create a users, go to users and create users. Just put in the name of the just put in the username and the password for that user. A phone number and email address is optional. If you do enter phone number or email address, you can send a notification that the new user was created. You can also edit the message as well, and then you can give them permissions of what they can access or what they cannot access. So this is where you can control the permissions of that user. You can also provide them privileges to certain services within the NAS. So if you don't want the user to access multiple applications, you can just disable these applications. They won't be able to see those applications on there when they log into the NAS. You can also disable network services as well. You can disable Samba services, you can disable FTP services, so they won't be able to access the NAS via those services. I already have few users created, so under edit applications, again, you can disable few applications if you already have a user created, or you can go to edit folder permission. This is where you can give him permissions to access certain files and folders without having to access or so without having to, and then if you deny them, they won't be able to access that folder. And if you put in read only, they will be able to access the folder with only read only permissions, where they cannot write data, but they can only read data. And then read and write basically means they can access everything within that NAS. Now you can also create new user groups. This is where you can create if you create new user group, you can control permissions for that user directly. So, and then you can select which users are part of that user group. And then under folder permissions, you can give them access to certain folders within that group. So as soon as you put a user in that particular group, that user will automatically be able to access certain folders that you give permissions to. So that's basically users and user groups. Again, now if you want to change passwords, you can also change passwords from here as well. Admin can change passwords for other users. So in case of if one of your users forgets password, you can just log in here with your admin privileges and then just change password for that particular user. Under edit, you can also enter that email address and phone number. You can also put in description name. You can also disable this account after certain date. So if you have a temporary user that needs access for certain times, like interns, you can provide them. You can create a user and then disable, and you can provide an expiry date. So once that date is expired, that user won't be able to access the NAS at all. So that is a quick overview how to create users and user groups within the NAS. The next I want to go through is our new application that we have introduced with our new firmware, which is QuLog Center. Now QuLog Center is a new application that replaces system logs. So if you remember, there was system logs before. Before you used to have system logs within control panel, but that is now replaced by QuLog Center. QuLog Center gives you gives you access to all the features that the log center had. So you can access your system event logs. So what is your NAS basically doing? If there's any issues with your NAS, or if you update anything that's happening with your NAS, anything that you change, all the settings that we have changed, new users you've created, new accounts you've created, if you have changed any settings within the NAS, everything is now reported within the QuLog center under system event logs. You can also dig deep within by severity, like if you have any errors, you can look at all the errors that you have, all the warnings that you have if you wanted to see all the warnings, and then also all the information that you have as well. So basically you can also do that here as well. You can also export these logs into a CSV file, and you can also select the destination folder, and it will save that so it will save this logs within the folder on the NAS. You can also, if you want to download it to a computer that you're logged into right now, just click on export logs and click on download, and we'll download a CSV file of all the logs that you have right now into your computer. System event logs. Now this is a feature that not a lot of users use, but it's actually very important features, especially if you want to do auditing. What this means, system event logs is basically a feature that you can use, especially if you use Samba services on the QNAP. So system event logs basically logs all the information of what is happening with your QNAP. So basically, under Log Center, Access Log Center, you can set up system event logs connection types. You can log connections of all the HTTP, HTTPS connections, SSH, SFTP, iSCSI, FTP, AFP, Telnet, Windows Samba services, and WebDAV. So if a user uses any of these services, it will put in that information within the system access logs. So you can see which user is trying to access your NAS at what time and what services are they using. So you can get more information about what is happening with your NAS. If you have any deleted files within let's say for example, Eric was accessing this data. Let me change this log to have more logs. So see right here, Eric was changing a lot of things within the NAS. He was trying to, you can see what he was trying to do. He was writing data, he was creating directives within the NAS. You can also see if he's actually doing any deletion. If he moved any data, you can see all that information within the QNAP NAS. Only certain services will allow you to give you detailed information. Services like FTP, HTTP, HTTPS will give you information about reading, writing, and moving data. Samba also gives you information about reading, writing data. So other services like iSCSI or AFP does not give you information. AFP only gives you information on who's logging in. Once they log in, what they do within the NAS won't be logged. That is just a drawback of the AFP protocol basically. But SMB protocol gives you detailed information, or even HTTP, HTTPS also gives you detailed information about what is happening with your NAS. You can see all this, who's writing data, who's moving data, who's deleting data, everything is all logged in. So in case if a file goes missing, you can come here and then you can find out what's going on, who was accessing the NAS during that particular time. And if they use HTTP or Samba services, you can find out what they exactly did when they were logged into the QNAP NAS. So you have a detailed overview of what's going on with your QNAP NAS. So to make sure to enable this service, you have to go under log settings, and then make sure under access logs, you have to check these boxes, and make sure you select all the services that you require. And then under system of access logs, you can find out what information is going on at what types, basically. Online users is a service that you can see who's logged in at the current moment. So you can find out what's going on with your NAS. So right now I'm logged in right here. If you're an admin account, you can actually disconnect them. You can also block them for a certain time or even forever, in case if you do not know what's going on with your NAS. Okay, so basically that's online users, very simple, feature. We always had that. So all these features were already available within our older firmware, but the new feature that we now introduce is log sender and receiver. So if you have multiple NAS at your location, and you want to consolidate all the logs from all the NASs into a single NAS, you can actually do that. So you can elect one of your NASs to be a log receiver. So under log receiver, make sure you check this box saying filter receive logs from remote QuLog center, and then you can use TCP or UDP protocol. Now this is the port that you want to use if you want to use this service. So if you have NASs that are not on site or that actually are in the remote location, you can port forward 1514, and then once you have port forwarded, you can actually receive logs from all over the world as long as they can access internet. And then you can save these logs. If you have multiple volumes, you can save these logs into a certain volume if you wanted to. You can change the retention times. You can say you can save this log forever. You can save last like 180 days. You can save last 1 year of logs. And then you can also archive these logs once the database is removed. So let's say if you want to save logs for last 30 days. So after last 30 days, if you check this box, it will archive all the logs after 30 days into this location. You can select a location within your NAS, and then it will save all the logs after 30 days within the public folder. You can do that for system MN logs and system access logs as well. So once you have done that under log sender, you can say click on add destination, enter the IP address or the myQNAPcloud address name of the remote QuLog center, and then just send test message to make sure you can receive the logs. I have this particular NAS is sending logs to this particular NAS. So if I send a test message, they should be able to so this message means that it is able to successfully send the logs. And on the receivers, on the NAS that is receiving all the logs, you will see all the devices right here. So you can, so I have two NASs that is sending logs to this particular NAS. So I can see what are they. I can see logs from each of the NAS from this location already. So I can go to system MN logs for that particular NAS. I can also go to system access logs. I haven't received any system access logs. Same for marketing as well. I have another NAS. I can look at the system access logs if in case. So you don't have to log. So I don't have to log into this NAS to look at the logs. I can just log into one of my NAS and I can see all the logs from all the NASs from this location itself. So again, consolidating everything onto one single application. Okay, give me 1 second. And that's the QuLog Center. Hopefully this information was enough to give you more detailed information about how to set up QuLog Center. The next I'm going to give you an overview of Resource Monitor. So Resource Monitor, you can access it via an application. So under you can click right here on the top left corner, and you will see Resource Monitor, or you can go to the dashboard. A dashboard gives you a quick overview of what's going on with your NAS, your CPU usage, storage usage, any disk health information, uptime of the NAS. But Resource Monitor is where you can get detailed information about what's going on with your NAS. So here you can see all your average CPU usage, your network usage, your CPU, the memory usage, and the processor information. This is an overview page. So again, if you have any issues where the NAS is not working properly, or NAS is slow at the moment, or you're having some performance issues, you want to make sure you come here and then look at your CPU usage, RAM usage, memory, network usage, to see if is anything out of the place. You can also dig deep here. You can under System Resource Monitor, you can go detailed information about your CPU usage. You can also do under by CPU. If you have multi-core CPU, you can look at each core and how they're doing, how the usage of each core is. If you have a high CPU usage, you can go under processes. So the processes tab, it gives you information of what's running on your NAS, and then you can just you can filter, or not filter, but basically sort by CPU usage. So if you have a high CPU usage, you want to click on the sort button right here by CPU, and then you can quickly get information on who's using a lot of CPU resources, and then you can find out what's going on with that particular NAS. If you have any virtualization application, if you have a containerization, those will be the one that will be listed high at this point when somebody's using that resources. But again, a quick troubleshooting steps of what if you have high CPU usage. Similarly, for memory usage as well, you can get information about your physical memory, also your swap memory. So if you have this bot enabled right here, and then if this bot keeps you telling you that right now it's sufficient memory because everything is working fine, but in case if your NAS reaches higher, if your NAS reaches the memory capacity, this will turn into red or orange. It will keep popping saying that not enough memory or ran out of memory. And you can quickly find here in the resource monitor your memory usage, your swap memory usage, and under processes again you can find out what memory is being used a lot, or which process is using a lot of memory right here. And then you can quite quickly find out information about what's going on with your NAS. This is also a great tool to let you know if you get a lot of memory usage when you have a lot of applications open, if you have virtualization open, if you have multiple VMs open, if you have a lot of and you also use it for Plex, you also use it for containerization. If you get a lot of high memory usage error messages, then it's an indication that your NAS may require an additional memory. So you want to upgrade your memory to a higher memory. If you have 3 slots, just buy another memory, just add it into your NAS. If you use up all your slots, maybe upgrade your memory to a higher memory. Again, that's an indication that your QNAP requires more memory. For network, this gives you information about network usage. So again, quick information about what's going on with your network. If your network is slowing down, you want to first find out information from here. If your QNAP is actually the one that's using a network, so under network usage, it will give you information about right now if the QNAP is using your network at all. Right now it's not using, it's only kilobytes, so it's not using my network at all. So everything is good to go. But if you see anything in megabytes or gigabytes, that means it's using a lot of network resources. So you want to find out what's going on. And if you're actually using port trunking, or if you're actually using multiple network adapters, you can also look at right here which network adapter is using which network adapter is using high network resources as well. So again, quick information what's going on with your NAS using system resources. If you have graphic card, it can also give you information about graphic card usage as well. Storage resources gives you information about your storage activity, your SSD read and write speeds, your latency for your SSD for your volume and LUN. Also for pool as well, you can also dig deep by pool. RAID activity again gives you information about if you have multiple RAID groups, and the disk activity gives you information about by each disk. Now I would use this feature if you have any performance issues regarding your NAS. If you have a performance issues, you can you want to check your CPUs, your CPU usage, your memory usage, your network usage, as well as your volume and your RAID disk activity, basically. So which disk has higher latency or which disk has lower performance? Maybe that disk is about to go bad. You want to try replacing that disk, and then that may increase your performance, because again, with RAID, it will take the slowest drive, and all the disks will be running at that slow performance because one of the disks is running slow. So you want to see, this gives you information about what's going on with your NAS with all the disks as well. Under storage space, this gives you information about what's being used by your NAS. If you have multiple volumes, what folder is using how much data, you can quickly get that information from here as well. This gives you information about your storage utilization. And again, we went through the processes again. This gives you information about what's running on your NAS, and you can sort it by CPU usage or memory usage in case if you have a high CPU usage or memory usage. So that is it for resource monitor. The next we're gonna look at again another new application, which is notification center. Notification center again is a new application that will gives you information about or actually that you can use that to give you information about what's get notified about your NAS basically. So under Notification Center, under Notification Center, this gives you information about what's going on with your NAS, and then how to get notified by your NAS. So overview pages just gives you information about what's going on with your NAS again. So I'm going to go to another NAS where I have read a notification right here. So, and then this is again a new application. Before it used to be just SMTP services that the QNAP had, but the new Notification Center gives you way better methods to get notified if there's something going on within that. So right here under notification queue and history, just gives you information what was sent to your what notification was sent by your NAS. So the history gives you information about what notification was already sent. So I have all these notifications that was sent to my email, my phone, my Skype account. So again, it gives you information about what's going on with your NAS, or sorry, the history of notifications that was sent. Queue just gives you information about what notifications are now queued up to be sent out. So if you have a lot of events that is happening, the QNAP will start sending notifications one after the other. The queue just gives you information about what notifications has already been sent. That will be under history, and then queue is what notification is being sent out and what is remaining to be sent as well. Device account is and pairing, device pairing. This is where you're going to be using a lot of this is where you're going to be setting up how to notify. So you have four different notification methods. One is email, SMS, instant messaging, and as well as push services. Now, if you want to get notified by email, you can go to add SMMT services, and then we already have predefined accounts that you can use. So if you have a Gmail, Yahoo, again Outlook, you can just select that and then type just authenticate with that account. And it uses browser to authenticate, so you don't have to put in any SMMT information or any port number or anything like that. Again, just select that account, and it will use that account to start sending emails. So this is the email it's going to use to send you an email. You can have the same sender and receiver. You just need an email address to be sent out. QNAP will use that Gmail account to send emails out to everyone. If you don't have an account, if you don't have a services that is listed right here, you can also do custom services, especially if you have an enterprise account, enterprise email server. You can use this. You just need SMMT server if you use this any secure connection, the port number, the email address, username and password if it requires, and then and you can use that. Make sure you always click on send test email to make sure that the QNAP can access that server. So once you've entered that information, the QNAP will, I already have an account right here that is using my personal email address and is being sent out to everyone. And then SMS, we also now support SMS services as well. Again, we don't have our own SMS services. We just use third party. We have Clickertel, we have Nextmo, we have QuLog that you can use. And if you have a custom SMS server, you can also use a custom SMS server as well. Just enter that information, and the QNAP will use this to send out SMS services to everyone. Instant messaging, again, you can now use Skype or Facebook to send out an instant messaging services as well. If you click Skype, you just have to enter your Skype information, and then QNAP will add QBot_QNAP as a new Skype account into your Skype, and it will, and every time the QNAP every time you're notified with Skype, that QBot_QNAP will have a new message regarding that notification. So again, same with Facebook as well. You can also do Facebook messaging as well. And then lastly, push services. So if you have Q Manager installed on your phone or on your iPad or on your tablet, you can also receive push notifications on your phone as well. So just have to install that application within your within your phone and tablet, and then you have instructions right here how to set up push notification. Once you install that application, just allow notifications to be received, and then once you have done that, you will see your phone right here, and then you can start sending notifications as well. You can also do browser notification as well. So if you have a QNAP NAS you always log into and you want to receive immediately notification on your browser, you can also pair that browser. So it will pair this particular browser. You just have to click allow, and it will start. You will receive notification in Chrome browser when you're logged into right now. Okay, so that's how you can set up notifications. Now this is how to receive notifications. Now, to start sending notifications, you have to create a rule. So you can create a rule right here, and then now the QNAP gives you better understanding of what notifications you want to be sent out as. So right here, you have all these applications and services that QNAP uses, and then you can now we can receive and send notifications from all these services right here. So I already have multiple rules right created. I have a rule that I've created for information. I have a rule that I've created for warnings, and I have another rule that I've created for errors. So let's look at my rules. So for information, I don't want it. So for information, I just want information about certain services only. Like if I have any app updates, I want to be notified for any app updates. So you can check that box right here. So any information about apps, app status change, if the app started or stopped for any reason, the QNAP will send me a notification. Or if there's any update for any applications, so let's say Plex, if you're using it for Plex, if Plex has any update, you will get notified for the Plex update. What else do I have notifications set for? For file station, if you have any file sharing, if somebody shares a link through file station, I'll be notified. Somebody initiates a transfer using file station, I'll be notified. For firmware as well, if you have any firmware updates as well, it will send me a notification for any firmware updates on my QNAP NAS. Any hardware changes. So if there is any hardware, like any bad, if you have a fan, if you have any changes within the fan, if you have any hardware changes, I'll be notified as well. Status as well. I want to get notification for anything related to hardware. If I have any RAM, if you have any changes in CPU clock usage, if you have any fan usage changes, if somebody opens up my NAS cover, I want to get notified. So you will have notifications for all my hardware status. So again, you can select applications and services where you're going to get notified by. So again, to create a new rule, just create new rule, select all the applications you want to get notified from, and then hit next. And then here you can select where what type of notification you want to send errors, information, or warnings. So you can receive information. You can have a new rule, as I mentioned, as I have right here. I have a new rule for information. I have a warning rule and I have an error. So if you look at my error rules, I have basically checked everything. So any errors that I get from any services or any apps, I will get immediately notified by that by this particular rule. So everything is now checked for my error. For information, or for warnings, I have certain warnings that I want to get notified for. Basically, anything related to file station, firmware updates, anything related to hardware status, I want to get notified for any warnings. So if you, let's say if your CPU is overheating, I will get warnings for this particular, based off this particular rule. So once you've selected the rules that you want to get, you can select the criteria as well, and then methods. This is where you're gonna get method. You can select which method you want to get notified by. So as I mentioned, I have all services. I have email, SMS, Skype, as well as push notification. So here, for any warnings, I'll get an email notification. Immediately, I will get an email regarding this. You can also set up another pair. So I also want to get warnings on my I want to get an SMS notification when there's a warning. So I select SMS and I select which phone number I want to get the SMS from, and you can select that phone number. So you can get so I want to get like I want to get SMS at this particular number, and it will select that. If you have users that have SMS entered, I can enter that information right here as well. So select that user, I can enter that phone number right here. Let's say if I want to get instant messaging as well, you can select the Skype user that you have, and then it will get I will get an instant notification on my Skype account, and you will receive a Skype message for that particular error or warning. I also want to receive push notification on my phone. You can select which phone or which iPad you want to get notified. You want to get notified on, and you can select that particular device, and you will have push notification on that particular device. So again, a very detailed method on receiving notifications on your NAS, and multiple ways to get notified. If there is any warnings, or if there's any errors, or if there's any changes of any kind of information, QNAP will send notification on multiple methods using Notification Center. And then Global Notification Center settings just gives information about if certain applications or services can send you emails, SMS, instant messaging, or push services. That's just basically a global way to set up notifications for all these applications. Again, that's Notification Center on the QNAP NAS. So the last thing we want to go through is myQNAPcloud. myQNAPcloud is an application that is available, is pre-installed actually within your NAS. This is an application that you can set up for remote access. If you want to access your device remotely, you can set up myQNAPcloud. So you have to create a myQNAPcloud account. First, you have to go to myQNAPcloud.com. And then you have to create an account right here. So sign up. And you can sign up for the account. Once you have signed up for the account, there's a Get Started button right here. Just select Get Started, and you can start. You can set up basically an account for your NAS. You do have to have a unique name for your NAS. Basically, if somebody else is using this particular name, so right now DDP 872X is being used by me, so you cannot use this particular name again, because again it creates a website for you basically. So also select a unique name, and once you've done that, you can now set up you can start using your NAS remotely as well. Now with myQNAPcloud, if you have a NAS, if you have a router that supports auto router UPnP, you can set up port forwarding by using auto router configuration. Just enable UPnP port forwarding, and then once you have done that, hit apply, and you can start. You can start opening ports using auto router configuration. So you don't need to access your router to open ports. So certain services require port forwarding, right? If you want to access your NAS remotely, you need HTTP or HTTPS services. So you need to open ports for that particular services onto the router. So select that particular port if you wanted to, and then apply the router, and QNAP will then open the port onto your router itself. Your router needs to support UPnP services and has to be enabled. I don't have a UPnP router, so it just can't open the port. My DDNS, again, QNAP gives you free DDNS services that you can use remotely. So right here, I have the DDP 872X. This is .myqnapcloud.com. So whatever unique name you select, .myqnapcloud.com, this is how you can access your NAS remotely. So sorry about that. So just enter the unique name that you entered for your NAS, .myqnapcloud.com, and if you have done the port forwarding, you can now access your NAS remotely using that services. Now published services. Now this is again, now with myQNAPcloud, if you have a router or if you have a network that you cannot open ports, you still can access your NAS with your QNAP, with myQNAPcloud. And the way you can do that is using myQNAPcloud link. myQNAPcloud link allows you to access your NAS using this particular link without having to open the port. But remember, any data that you do use using myQNAPcloud link goes through our servers. The way this works is that the QNAP will create a link to our servers, and then that service will be broadcasted using our service to your browser. So whenever let's say if you want to transfer a file, if you transfer a file to your NAS, that file goes through our servers and then to the QNAP NAS. This again only works if you don't have any port forwarding. If you open the port, the link is direct. So your computer opens a direct link using port forwarding into your QNAP NAS. But there are many users who are unable to open ports on your router. And myQNAPcloud link is a great method to use this, to still be able to access your NAS remotely without having to open the port. And then, so make sure you have this link enabled, and then under publish services, you can select which service you want to be able to access using this myQNAPcloud link. If you want to access just your files, you can just enable file station and disable everything else, and also enable web services. So in case you want to make any changes remotely, you can also do that right here. Once you've enabled myQNAPcloud link, you just the way you access your NAS remotely without opening the port is sign in with your account. Okay, once you sign in with your account, you will see your NAS right here. This is the NAS. You still have to enter your NAS's local username and password. So local username and password that I have on my NAS. Once you have done that, you can now access your files that are remotely all these files are now being accessed using the link, using our server. So everything you transfer from here to the QNAP, or even if you download something, it will go through our service. So basically, it doesn't stay on servers. It's just using our service to create a link. But the performance will be a little bit slower because it has to have multiple hops. It will go through our servers and then to your NAS. If you have port forwarding, the link is direct. Because of the link is direct, the performance is faster. So again, you can still access your NAS remotely without having to open the port. You can upload your data right here. You can download folders right here. You can also share this to another user. You can share, and you can provide a link to other users so they can now access your NAS remotely. You can copy this link and provide this to another user. You can also email them. You can also pass protect this, so in case so they can only access the data when they enter the correct password. You can also do that right here. So again, that's the way you access your device remotely without having to open the port. Access control gives you information about. So here's another tip that a lot of users requested. Let's say if you want to share this NAS to another user without having to, and they're remote, and they don't, and then you want to, so you want to give them access to your NAS, but you don't have to. You cannot open the port, but they want to still be able to access the NAS. But you don't want to share your myQNAPcloud account. Have them set up a new myQNAPcloud account they don't need a NAS to set up a myQNAPcloud account. Once they set up a myQNAPcloud account, just enter that email address of that particular user on here. I have an email address right here. So if I sign out to this, if I sign out from my personal myQNAPcloud, and if I sign in with his account, you will see your friend's device, and then you will see 872x. They still need username and password, so you still have to create a username for his account on the local NAS. But once they access the friend's device, they can access all the data. So basically, they don't need a NAS, or they don't need to purchase a NAS. They just need to create an account, myQNAPcloud account, onto a servers, and then once you've created the account, just share that account using your myQNAPcloud account. So going back to mine. So once I've shared them, they can access on the friend's device. I can also cancel the sharing in case they're done with all the downloading, uploading they have to do. So I can also delete them from here as well, and then they won't have access. They would no longer have access to that NAS as well. So again, that's another great way to share your device with other users. Services again gives you information about services. So as I mentioned, I was able to publish services like QTS Desktop, File Station. So if I access QTS Desktop, it will actually use my QNAPcloud link to create an account, and you can access your web browser, and you can start using your NAS remotely as well. and also access your file station directly as well. And also photo station, other services as well that you have published, they can all access your device as well. Device details is where you can unregister. So if you no longer need this name, you can unregister, and this name can be used by someone else as well. Last information I want to go through is SSL certificate. Now you can purchase SSL certificate for your NAS, so you can securely access your NAS. So when you're accessing remotely, your connection between your computer and the NAS is secure. Once you purchase SSL, you can. Right now we have a buy 2 month. So when you buy a certificate, you can get 2 months extra. You can get. We have a certificate for 3 years. So for you select domain name myQNAPcloud.com, and you pay for that account. And then once you've done that, go back to your NAS under myQNAPcloud app, go to SSL certificate, and then click on download and install, and it will activate that SSL certificate. So right here, if you access with any browser, you're gonna see connection is secure. Basically, that means that the SSL is working and the connection is secure. Without SSL, it will say not secure right here. That's the message you're gonna get. I think that was it for today. Hopefully I was able to cover a lot more information regarding these, how to manage your NAS. Back to you, Cody.
All right, thank you, Naval. And we'll just be having we'll be having a little Q&A time now. I see there are a lot of questions so far, so we'll be getting to that for you guys.
All right, so okay, so what's the difference between a folder and a shared folder? Basically, let me go back to my screen. Shared folder is basically the folder that you create on your NAS. That will be the main folder. That's called a root folder, and that's the folder that is shared across via Samba services. So everyone can access that device when they enter the username password. Basically, you have to enter the username password, and they can access that particular folder. That's a root folder that you have within that. That's called a shared folder. And the regular folder is within there's a folder within that folder. So I have a shared folder called multimedia. Anything I create within that folder is just a regular folder, and it's just a regular folder that I have on my QNAP NAS. It's not a shared folder because this is within the this is again within the shared folder basically. So I'm so sorry. Let me go back here. Right, this is just a regular folder that you create within the shared folders. Shared folder is the root folder that is shared that the QNAP uses to share across your network, basically. Is there a way to get details behind firewall log entries? I really want details on source IP hitting the deny rules. That feature is in the works right now. We don't have an update for that QU firewall, basically, but that feature may soon be coming, but it's not available right now. So another great question is, what's the difference between the home and homes folder? Basically, homes folder is okay. So home folder is a folder that when you create a new user, they will have a home folder. Basically, that's their own folder that no one else or no other user can access that data. So, and that's for regular users. Even admin have their own home folder. Homes folder is basically if you're logging in on the QNAP NAS using an admin account, they will also see the homes folder. Basically, homes folder is basically it's just folders where all the home folders are stored in. Basically, and the only reason you're seeing the homes folder is because you're logged in as an admin. If you're not logged in as an admin, you won't see homes folder. You will only see the home folder, which is your own folder, and no one can access. Because the admin has access to everything and all has access to every other folder as well, they will see homes folder, and if you see anything within the homes folder, is just basically everyone's home folder. So admin has his own home folder, right? So if you create a new folder, and then if you go to homes folder, and I'm the admin, so my name is Zaval, I'm the admin for this particular NAS. So if you go within the vault, you will see that same folder. It's basically the same link because I'm an admin, I can see all home folder, my own home folder, as well as everyone else's home folder. So everyone's home folder is stored within homes, basically. Another question is, in the notification center, is there a way to delete all of the messaging sending from Q tabs? So no, there's no way to delete Q, basically. But it's a great feature. I can look into entering a feature request for that. Can you export rules from one NAS to the other? Right now, again, that feature is not available. Again, Notification Center is actually a newer application, so any feedback that we get today, I can put that into consideration, and I can always send this information to HQ. Hopefully, we can get this implemented. That's like another great feature that I think it should be available within Notification Center. But I don't think, yeah, there's no way to send this to another account. That's another great feature as well. How can I create an exception notification? For example, how to report if a disk is not healthy only after a regular scan. So basically, don't create a notification for information. So because I guess you have a notification that also has information selected. So right here, so that's another great example. So under, I think, under hardware status, anything related to drives, just unselect that for information, and then create another rule for errors, and then select that drives as well. So when you select that, you only receive notification for any errors, not for any regular scans. You only receive errors, not for regular scans. So again, create two different rules, one for error and one for information, and then unselect disk on anything related to drives under information, and then only select drives or disk for errors, and you will only receive notification if you have any errors for that drive. What can you do is your NAS system overheating and fans are going to a high RPM. Again, so if your NAS is overheating, basically maybe the airflow within that location is not good enough, or is not able to get good enough air circulation. So you want to take that NAS out of any confined location and then put it to a different location where it has enough ventilation. Also use compressed air and blow air on the back of the NAS. Remove all the hard drives. Also blow compressed air within the hard drive base to clear any dust, because sometimes over the time dust accumulates and it may create ventilation issues. So use compressed air to create clean out all the vents as well as hard drive base. Also clean the hard drive trays as well. Just clean that. Open up the air, the cover, the top cover of the NAS. Just use compressed air to clean all the dust within the NAS. That should resolve your issues. Doing it one by one is not efficient, and it takes time of 100 times where I get notification for thumbnail errors. 100 times. I just want one notification for all of them, having the ability to delete all of them. So yeah, again, I think this is going back to notification queue. Again, that's a great feature request. I can look into that and I can submit a feature request. A feature request for this. Can QVPN be used? Asked by covering myQNAPcloud link. QVPN requires port forwarding, so you require to open the ports on your router to use VPN services. What are the optimal environmental conditions for a QNAP NAS at home? Basically, have enough space on the back of the NAS and on the sides of the NAS, so it has enough airflow, because it sucks in air and air is leaving from the side. So make sure you have enough ventilation available on all three sides of the NAS. Make sure the room temperature is not high enough. Have certain. It doesn't require air conditioning basically, but have the room should not be hot enough to where it will create overheating issues. If you have multiple devices, especially at home conditions, in a home environment, if you, usually people tend to have amplifiers or DVRs or other devices that create their own heat, and they all are stacked on top of each other or sitting next to each other. That creates overheating issues for all devices. So make sure you have enough space between all these devices. So if you have a DVR, make sure you have enough space between the NAS and DVR. Same for amplifiers as well. Make sure you have enough space between the DVR amplifier and the NAS, so they're not cramped to each other. And if they're in a single cabinet, I do recommend to have multiple ventilation holes on the cabinets, basically on the back of it. Maybe a small fan, like an exhaust fan within the cabinet also can help as well. Actually, that's what I use. So I would recommend that, and I haven't had any overheating issues as of yet. I have a DVR amplifier, multiple Apple TVs, and an 8-bay NAS, so hasn't had any issues yet. Are there any security issues by turning on UPnP? Are these security settings best to use? So again, UPnP is not recommended. So it's best to not use that service, because what happens when you have router or UPnP service turned on, there may be other devices on your network that can use that to basically open ports and be able to access the device remotely. So UPnP by itself is not recommended, but that feature is available. That's the reason I wanted to go through that. I always recommend manually opening ports on your router if you can, but for users who are not able to open the ports or having issues understanding how the router works, UPnP is just an easier way to give access to your NAS remotely as well. And control, you can always disable UPnP if you don't need access remotely as well, and enable it only when you need it as well. Do any SSL certificates come with the NAS purchase? No, SSL is an additional certificate that you need to purchase, that it comes outside of the NAS. It's an additional purchase. Security counselor warns me of auto configuration is on and I'm at medium risk. So you can either, if you want to leave auto router configuration on, there's a way to ignore security counselor, and it won't notify you, but it will always let you stay at medium, because that's again a security threat on your NAS. What is the difference between the home folder and personal folder? If it's the home folder, we went through that, but if you the home folder is basically just the folder that QNAP automatically creates for you. Again, that home folder may be used by other applications on your NAS. One application is QSync. QSync, when you use QSync and you store data within the QSync folder, a hidden folder is created within the home folder that QSync uses for storing your data. So home folder is used by QSync, and then if you create your own folder, you can use it for any other purpose as well. Home folder is not a requirement, but if you may need to use it if you want to use QSync. What is the optimal RAID format option if the NAS is just being served as a file environment? So what is the optimal RAID format? So as mentioned, we do have a lot of RAID configuration. If it's just file services, we do recommend RAID 5 for anything maybe lower than maybe 4 or 6 bay or anything lower than that. But anything higher than that, we recommend RAID 5. RAID 6. So for RAID 5 gives you 1 drive redundancy. Anything over 6 bay, we do recommend RAID 6. So it gives you 2 drive redundancy, because more the drives, the more there's a chance of multiple drives going bad at the same time, especially if you have more than 6 drives. So that gives you an additional security method. So in case of 2 drive goes bad, your data is still intact. And what services should I disable? If you're just using for Samba services, disable all the applications. Like, don't install any applications within the App Center. There are certain applications that the QNAP will use on your NAS. That is a requirement. Like I think License Center. Those are like built-in application notification center. You can't delete those applications. Any of the applications that don't require, delete them. Disable services like AFP, NFS services. Disable also services. Telnet SSH, disable all the services as well. FTP, don't use those services if you're just using Samba. Basically, yeah, those are the major services as well. Web services, again, if you're not using it for remote access or not hosting any website, disable the web services as well on your NAS. And everything else, you have to enable that. So like syslog, SQL services, all disabled by default. You have to enable the services. But whatever I showed you right now are can be enabled by default. So disable the services if you're just using it for file sharing. Okay, how to recover deleted folder delete a folder in recycle bin? Is it possible folder snapshot? How to delete folder? How to recover deleted folder? So let me see if I have any deleted files. So to recover anything within the recycle bin, basically, let's say I want to delete. Let's say if I delete this. So if I delete this, it should go in my recycle bin right here. I can just right click on it. You can recover it. You can delete it completely, or you can empty the whole recycle. Empty means it will delete everything from the recycle bin. If you just recover it, it will go to the original location. If you have a file that is already named as that, it will override that particular file or create a new file. Basically, that's how to recover a deleted file from recycle bin. I'm not really sure about the next part of that question. Is it possible folder snapshot? Can you give me more information about on that feature on that question? So moving on to next question. What is the proper way to set up McAfee antivirus? Seems like a NAS is always running a scan, slowing down performance. Unfortunately, I don't have a license right now for McAfee, so I won't be able to show you interface, but there should be a scan interval within McAfee option. If you have a lot of files, basically if you have a lot of files and folders within the NAS, that scan can take a longer time. So maybe the frequency of the scan is maybe within the few hours or within the day. So what happens if so if the scan is running, and it may take, I've seen scans take a long time, even more than 6 hours or 8 hours. And if you have a scan running every day, so it will run 6 to 8 hours of scanning every single day. And if you have options like details file scanning checked, then it will run a scan for a longer period of time. So maybe run a scan once every week, or basically, yeah, that's the only option you have actually. Where do you set up the router information ports on the NAS setting? Again, the router information on the router, you have to enable the UPnP services, and you don't have to enter anything for the router. You just have to enable on the myQNAPcloud link. You have to enable auto router configuration, and QNAP will automatically find the UPnP router, and it will start. You can just check which port you want to forward and apply the router. It will open that particular port. I get notification exactly 2 hours from QU firewall. The denied amount of reach is set as threshold 30. I will submit a ticket for that under helpdesk.qnap.com. Just submit a ticket for that particular issue, and our support will take a look at that particular issue. Is 80% humidity harmful to a NAS? I think there's a high humidity that may create issues down the line. Having high humidity within the NAS, yeah. Can a storage pool be encrypted after setup? No, storage pool is just creating a RAID group, so it cannot be encrypted. The volume that is within that storage pool or the shared folder can be encrypted. So, but the storage pool itself is not encrypted. Now, there are certain storage pools, there are certain drives called SAD drives that you can purchase that may allow you to do secure storage pool. So, but that's specific amount of SAD drives that you have to purchase that allows to use that feature. So the drive itself has that feature that you can install, and then once you have done that, the QNAP can create a secure storage pool basically. Yeah, again, as I mentioned, there's another question again, is there a way to get details behind the firewall log entries? Again, that feature is not available for QU firewall as of yet. We have already entered a feature request for it. Hopefully that can be implemented very soon. What is the RAID scrubbing? RAID scrubbing basically just keeps your data intact. So especially if you have RAID 5, RAID 6, you want to do RAID scrubbing once every month. That just keeps everything, that just keeps your information intact. It just checks for data integrity and make sure everything is running fine. And then if there's any errors or issues, it can try to repair itself, and your data, again, once every month is recommended for data scrubbing. So RAID scrubbing. Last question right now is it possible to have individual folder snapshot, not the volume? Yeah, that is a great question. Yes, you can do shared on the shared folder. You can create something called so yeah, so you create a regular shared folder, and then you can set up folder encryption right here, and then you select encryption. Again, same concept. If you enter password, if you select save encryption key, the folder will be automatically unlocked. If you don't uncheck this, every time you restart the NAS, it will lock itself, and you have to manually unlock it. So yeah, you can do folder encryption, and that is what exactly is a great feature to use, because if you have only certain amount of data that you want encrypted, the performance because there's always a performance hit depending upon the NAS model you're using. There may be a slight performance hit when you're using encrypted volume. So when you use encrypted folder, only that particular data within that particular folder is impacted, not the whole volume. So especially when you have a lot of rest, because you only have certain data that you want to encrypt, folder encryption can help achieve that for you. So another great question is, does one need a public IP address to access or connect to your NAS directly? It's not a requirement. As I mentioned before, if you do open ports, then you may require a public IP address. But for certain scenarios or certain users who don't have access to public IP address or cannot open ports, myQNAPcloud link is for them. So you can set up myQNAPcloud link, and just using myQNAPcloud.com, and they can access your device using without having a public IP address or without opening port. They can access your device remotely or whenever you're over the internet. That was all the questions. Do we have any further questions? We'll be waiting for about a minute before we close the session out for today. All right, thank you very much, everybody, for joining. If you have any further questions, you can always email us at qnaps@qnap.com. And thank you for joining.
Thank you, guys. And we'll be sending up a follow-up with a link to the video once we have that up as well. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.